Today, in the palm of a hand, you have access to a world of information. You can reach a multitude of news sources and exchange your views with a wide range of people all over the world. This new reality should allow us to share our wisdom, to communicate, to understand each other, and to become more understanding of our differences, more tolerant of our differences. But 2016 seems to have replaced the information age for the post-truth era. With Brexit and the Trump election, we have discovered that more communication doesn't mean more information. Let me show you what I mean. Here is a picture of the Trump inauguration ceremony in 2017, and the same picture of the Obama inauguration ceremony in 2009. The White House declared that the Trump ceremony had been the largest in history. Did you know that 28% of Trump supporters said they believed that there were as many people, if not more, at the Trump ceremony? 30% said they didn't know, they were not sure. And 41%, that is only less than half, said that they disagreed with the White House statement. When you see these pictures, these views may seem crazy. So how is it that people can believe something so clearly untrue? But wait a minute, are you sure that you would never believe something so clearly untrue? Think about it. These pictures are not proofs. They could have been photoshopped. They could have been swapped. So when somebody raises these doubts to you, you will have to use your own judgment to weigh the evidence and make up your mind. So now suppose that you were a Trump supporter. Are you sure that you would not give any credence to somebody raising these doubts? Are you sure that you would never entertain that perhaps there were more people at the Trump ceremony and that these pictures are not a proof? Today I want to put to you that the cause of the fake news success lies primarily with us. Fake news work because we are willing to believe them. And because we are willing to believe them, we lie to ourselves. If we want a sound public debate, we need to stop lying to ourselves when we engage with the news. Let's consider an ideal public debate and think about it as a battle of ideas. All ideas are voiced and debated. A good idea is convincing, and it wins over less convincing ideas. The philosopher Karl Popper said that this process should lead public debate to select the best ideas. Unconvincing ideas disappear, and only the good ones survive. And science seems like a perfect example where public debate leads to selection of the best ideas. With this view in mind, the internet should have a positive effect on public debate. On the internet, ideas are free to be voiced and criticized. Good ideas should be able to convince more people and spread around, while bad ideas are abandoned. But when you look, it doesn't look necessarily what's happening on the internet at the moment. So why is that? Well, perhaps this view of the public debate is a bit unrealistic. In 1949, Max Planck famously joked about this vision from Popper. Max Planck was a theoretical physicist who eventually won a Nobel Prize. He said, a new scientific truth doesn't triumph because it convinces its opponents. Rather, these opponents get old, and eventually they die, and they're replaced by a new generation of scientists. And what Max Planck was alluding to with irony was to the reality of debates with humans, us. Us humans, we are not designed as perfect rational thinkers, only looking for the truth. The fact is that often we are attached to our ideas. We can be attached to ideas because some ideas may be convenient to us for interest. So going to the example of the scientists from Max Planck, these scientists may have become famous because of the ideas that they proposed in the past, and which are now old ideas. Abandoning these ideas would be losing part of the credit they got for proposing these ideas in the first place. But it's not just in science. If you think in politics, if a government proposes to extend social welfare, those who would receive social welfare have an interest to believe it's good for the country. And those who would have to pay for the social welfare have an interest to think it's bad for the country, it's a bad policy for the country. But we are not just attached to ideas for material interests. It's much more complex. Often, we can be emotionally attached to ideas. They may be part of our identity. So if I'm a Christian conservative or a left-wing liberal, these ideas may be part of who I am. Abandoning these ideas could be losing part of my identity. As a consequence, we are attached to our ideas. So we are not neutral judges when we are considering the evidence for or against them. On the contrary, science shows, or science on behavior, show that we typically engage in self-deception, which is that we are building beliefs which are compatible with our interest and with our other beliefs. Self-deception is subtle. It takes place all the time in your everyday life. So I'm going to give you 2 ways in which self-deceptions can change the way we believe and produce convenient views for ourselves. First, when you receive a news, you have some flexibility into how you consider it. If it's a positive news, which is compatible with your beliefs, you can accept it as positive evidence. And if it's a negative news, you can, on the contrary, choose to discount it and not choose to consider it. Let me tell you about a study. A group of people were asked about beliefs, political beliefs and non-political beliefs. Political beliefs, they had to say whether they believed in statements such as abortion should be legal. Very loaded statement, typical of political statements. And non-political beliefs were statements such as smoking, second-hand smoking is dangerous for your health. What happened is that these people were confronted with contradictions to these beliefs. What do you think people did? Or how did they react when they were confronted with these contradictions? Well, here's how people reacted with their non-political beliefs. So you have the strength of their beliefs before the contradiction and after the contradiction. So when faced with a series of contradictions, they updated their beliefs, and the strength of their beliefs is lower after facing contradictions. But now look at what happens when they were faced with contradictions to their political beliefs. Here you can see that people resisted much more the contradiction and held to their political beliefs. That's one way we selectively interpret the news. But there is another way. We are not just receiving the news, we are looking out for them. We're selecting where we want to look for information. And typically, we look for confirming information. If you're a conservative, you're more likely to read a conservative newspaper, to watch a conservative news channel, and perhaps even to turn off the TV or the radio when a left-wing politician is being interviewed. Let me show you an hypothetical scenario. Let's say that you wake up in the morning and you open your newspaper. And in one scenario, you've got a news which is not good. It's a contradiction to your beliefs. Let's say that this news suggests that your favorite politician is involved in a political scandal. And consider the other situation, when on the contrary, the news in the newspaper is positive. It goes with your usual beliefs. Perhaps it's another politician, a politician that you do not like, who is involved in a political scandal. Do you feel that you would react in the same way to these 2 situations? Well, research shows that you would not. Most likely, what happens is that if you find a contradiction, you tend to look for other news sources. You give yourself a chance to find something which will contradict this negative news. Perhaps another newspaper. Perhaps you'll read the fine prints of the newspaper to make sure that the title was really reflected in the information. On the contrary, if you have the positive news, you're more likely to stop there. You're more likely to be happy to consider that this piece of evidence is enough for you to make your mind on this issue. So, as much as we would like to think of ourselves as rational thinkers, it is the fact that this tendency to look for confirming news and to reject negative information is inbuilt in us. So now before you panic and you think that our irrationality is making public debate impossible, you can relax. These biases existed forever and way before social media. So what's happening on the social media is that they are exacerbating some of the effects of this bias. Let me give you two ways in which they are doing so. First, on the internet, you have much more freedom to look for the information which is convenient to whatever beliefs you have. The internet is like a giant supermarket. For any kind of idea, you will be able to find arguments for and supporting this idea. Let's consider a crazy idea as an example. Let's consider that you believe that the Earth is flat. Well, 30 years ago, you would have been a bit alone and maybe struggling to find people to find you evidence for it. Today, you can just connect on the internet, contact the Flat Earth Society, and this society is going to provide you element of evidence, arguments in favor of your belief. There's another way in which the internet helps you engage in self-deception, is that you can do it collectively. You have now a multitude of communities on the internet who have created informational bubbles on their own. In these bubbles, people select information, interpret information, and repackage it in a way which is compatible with the community's view. When a new fact is discussed in this community, the elements which are positive for the community's views are reinforced, and the elements which are not are dropped, and the nuances are lost. These communities build simple views compatible with the beliefs of the community. So the social media have not created a unified public space where ideas are debated. Instead, social media have increased our ability to connect specifically with the people whose views mostly match our own. And whatever your views, you can find a community of like-minded people with whom you can share arguments supporting your existing beliefs and not challenging them. But what do you want? Do you want a unified public space where ideas are debated, discussed, and maybe the best ideas can win, or a compartmented public space where different visions of the world can coexist unchallenged? Well, if we want to defend and support the existence of an open public space, we need to realize that the problem starts with us, with how we form our opinions and how we share them on the social media. So perhaps in the post-truth era, we need some guidelines about how to interact on the social media. Here are 3 steps. Step 1, avoid the narrow selection of information which closely match your views. Make sure that in your timeline, you've got some news sources which challenge your view. Try to find out people with whom you disagree and exchange with them. Listen to what they have to say. Try to appreciate the points that they may have. Give them a chance to change your mind. Point 2, question your views. The more you'd like an idea to be true, the more you need to distrust the way you made your mind about it. Are you sure that you considered all the best counter-arguments to the views you have? That you've considered possibly the existence of weak points in your reasoning? Try to find them. Whenever you really want an idea to be true, you may remember that at some point in your life, we all like to believe in Santa. And even though we really wanted Santa to be true, it didn't make him more real in the end. So the more you'd like an idea to be true, you need to be wondering, is it too good to be true? Do I believe this because I want to believe it, or because of the evidence? Could it be another Santa for me? Step 3, avoid contributing to the distortion of facts. When you want to forward information on the social media, make sure you've read it, you understand it, and avoid to simplify it in a way which is going to be conform to the views of the community. Try not to contribute to an echo chamber effect within the community of views you are participating in. If you follow these guidelines, you are going to make yourself a favor. You are going to stop building a convenient alternative reality. You are going to avoid spreading half-truths and distorted facts. And you will limit the self-reinforcing loops of confirming exchanges, which are pushing people in different informational bubbles. You will help ideas to be questioned and challenged, and you will contribute to making the public space an open space where the best ideas can win. Will you allow yourself to change your views and to abandon old ones? Smart people change their mind. Choose to be one.